My question to you, people following Kenyan politics, you good people of Kenya.
Yes.
Why is Kenya where it is? Because everybody must know their past to stand firm in the future. Why are we, or how did we get where we are right now? If you can help me on that.
Yeah, like I was mentioning, all these things stems from the period of colonization.
Okay.
Right? When
I mean, you go too far. This
but
matters.
It's all tied.
It's all tied.
Because,
you know, because okay, so like for example, Tanzania after colonization, right? You had Julius Nyerere, who was sort of a socialist, right? And he kind of embraced a one Tanzania. Like compared to Kenya, Tanzania has how many tribes? Over 100 tribes, right?
123.
123 tribes. Okay. Compared to Kenya, I don't know the ins and outs, but the font that I know about Tanzania, it's not as tribal as Kenya. So, number one.
Yeah.
So when Jomo Kenyatta became president, he was with Oginga Odinga, right?
As the deputy, as the vice president.
Jaramogi.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jaramogi Odinga.
Jaramogi Odinga. Okay. So one of so Jomo Kenyatta was more aligned with like the West and the Brits, and then there was a time Jaramogi Odinga was like sort of like towards
leaning east,
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then when the West found out about this, right, and because there's a CIA declassified documents of 2008 that show that the CIA started investigating Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and started to collaborate with Kenyatta. And then they split. So when they split, it's like sasa jua wame break up, inamaanisha tribes zime break up.
Okay.
Unaona? And then now, remember, Kenya has a history of shareholding in terms of when this person comes to power, he brings his people. This person comes to power, he brings his people. So that has been how the Kenyan politics has been played.
I think, Val, one significant difference that maybe sometimes someone looking from outside, like for example at Tanzania, may not appreciate is that Kenya was a settler colony.
Yeah.
And settler colonies were organized very differently by white people. So you see, because the white people wanted to take the best lands, they created a zone for themselves, and then they separated people in what's called reserves. You know, people, like Zamani watu walikuwa nasema nenda reserve. So these reserves that Indians have here, that's what they came and implemented in Kenya.
Yeah.
So remember, Tanzania did not have Bandio. When did Tanzania eventually get a national ID? Because Tanzania for a long time did not have a national ID. Hii kitambulisho. It's fairly recent.
Yes.
So Kenya,
I mean, some people still don't have it. I think it's still in the process.
Yes, it's still in the process, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Kenya, hii system inaitwa kipande. Ilitoka time ya ukoloni.
I think
so.
Yeah, ilikuwa ni lazima uwe nayo shingoni.
You had to have it.
Yeah, you had to have it. So they were already separating people by tribe. So wangeenda in a certain community kama kwa Wakikuyu, watenda kwa Wakikuyu wako na mfumo wao wa uongozi, and they have their own systems of selecting their leaders. Then they would disrupt that. They would get, like people who are not necessarily respected in the community and make them the heads of that community.
Okay.
So now these communities, even the neighboring communities, they were living alongside each other in harmony. But what ended up happening, they started organizing them by tribe. So some of the tribes today in Kenya, like Luhya is a colonial construct. It's a total colonial construct. Like they were in separate groups, Bukusu, Tiriki, Maragoli, but they're all lumped together. These people speak even different languages. Same with Mijikenda. Where did Mijikenda come from? Colonial construct. Haikwako, like there's different groups, the Giriamas, the Digos. So there's some groups that were separated, and then there's some groups that were kind of put together. So that organization of our politics in terms of tribe and even representation, Wazungu, when they had that legislative council called Legiko, they'd be like, bring your people here to represent your tribes. So that's what started. So when the Wazungus left, they left that system of organizing politics by tribe.
Okay.
And unfortunately ikaendelea mpaka pali tumefika, you know, like when succession ya Kenyatta with President Moi, tribalism iliingia pia. And until sasa the 1982
it was basically a shift, you know.
Yes.
You shifted from the Kikuyu kingpins to the Kalenjin kingpins.
Yes.
And then you noticed that everybody who was Kikuyu was swept out of power, and the Kalenjins came and took over.
So,
and so then you
Wakikuyu
realize
wote waliondolewa.
this is a new regime.
Yeah.
Okay, mpaka hapo nimeelewa.
So
my question
so
is,
that's what has got us to where we are now,
right
Oh,
now.
because
okay.
no one has shared that ukoloni thing. And the only people who are crying to shed it now, as we see, ni Gen Z.
And that's why when we call out,
That's
yeah, we
okay.
call out.
So let's get to this. Is why I was asking: is there a checklist? I mean, you know the problem, because what I'm saying is, especially when I hear I follow Gen Z and all this stuff, but what I'm hearing now is just like, unajua mti ukianza kukauka, mti ukikosa maji, sehemu ya kwanza utajua kwamba mti hauna maji ni kwenye majani.
Correct.
Ukitaka kutatua tatizo haumwagilii majani, unamwagilia mzizi.
Correct.
And that's happened, ndio maana sioni tatizo. Yani hizi actions zote one time this sioni ikisolve what you just said. Okay, sioni layout ya kusema kwamba we're going to solve this. Okay, we want to be tribalist and we're going to solve what happened since colonialism, and this is how we're going to, right? Because I can almost guarantee Gen Z, as powerful as they are, wakiweka checklist, either Ruto will abide to it, or somebody else will come with the promise of doing it, okay? Or at least watakuwa na something ambayo mtu akiingia in few years, just like Ricky G said, kwamba we know for sure, hata nikiingia madarakani, if I don't do what they want, remember what you say?
Yeah.
And then watakuja after me. And that's what you need to do. Kwamba you still can force somebody to change, knowing that there is immediate consequences if you keep doing business as usual. So this is not about just picking somebody who's never been in the government before. No, it's just making sure you set the system that everybody can follow instead of what they're running now with the shit system.
And that's, sorry to interrupt you, and that is what we're doing by having this conversation. We've begun the work, calling out these people when we see them using those tactics.
Should we expect those kind
I
of...
mean, you remember since last year, Gen Zs were going to the church, taking those microphones, saying politicians cannot speak in church. The process has begun, educating each other.
Now,
we don't have like we are saying okay, the checklist is last year during the protest, right? We said don't reshuffle,
Yeah.
remove the whole cabinet.
yeah.
What were we listened to? Nothing. Ruto didn't do anything. We said we want.
He did.
He reshuffled, but we said we
correct.
wanted.
He got
reshuffled,
rid
yeah.
of them, but
And then brought them back.
But then he brought them back. Yes.
Yeah.
But there was a list.
There
was a
was a
list of
list.
13. I think it was 13
Yeah, there
demands.
was,
There was
yes.
a list of actually 13 demands last year. I don't know what the list
I
was.
don't-
So these checklists have been there.
Yeah.
Those are
and then
actual
who
lists.
has it?
And,
I'm
part
talking
of the
about-
checklist, you know, like, because I've been paying attention to what a lot of the Gen Zs have been saying, is follow the law. You know, like Akuna Mambo, you're calling people for a conclave, yet there's been multiple conclaves that have been had, from Lancaster to the conclave that led to the current constitution that we have. So Gen Zs are just saying, basically, whatever you're asking us, just look at this is what the constitution is telling you to do. So please go and do this. Now, unajua, part of the problem of you know, like trying to tell Gen Zs, come up with your leaders, bring them to State House. The reason why Gen Zs are wary of that is because this will be a trap. Those are the people who will be abducted. Those are the people who will be killed.
And,
Okay,
those
so
will-
let me
and some
ask-
of them will be bought or manipulated.
Again, naongea kama mtu kutoka nje, without leadership. Because I think one thing I would say, if somebody say advise these Gen Zs, I say you can stay fearless, stay tribalist, but you need a leader. Because hata mkisema kwamba this is the checklist, who will present if you're leaderless?
So I think it will be prudent to let the leaders come up organically and not necessarily say Morara Kebaso or Kasamuel Makaure is our leader, because look at what has happened.
And I'm not saying this is the way they should get one.
Yeah.
But I know for sure that at one point, for them to push the agenda,
Yes.
there need to be someone to say, we're going to send it, because it's almost impossible to have all Gen Zs.
So I think organically how this can happen,
Okay.
this by-elections coming up, this will be a good test to see what Gen Z can get on the ballot and win. And that's an organic leader who came up from, who was chosen by the people. He's not a self-appointed leader.
Okay.
Because right now the problem is there are so many leaders within this movement, but then ni nani amekuchagua, and you've seen that problem come up. So if they come up organically, the same way a crop of leaders came during Sabasaba,
Okay.
like they went to parliament and they got voted for, and Uno Mike has something to say.
Uno, say.
No, I wanted to say also another problem is this. Once you identify a so-called leader, or let's say tuseme tuchague Val, atongoze, there is the fear of her being approached and being bought, as we have clearly seen with to come in, and there's the fear of being what is the word? Being. I'm gonna, for lack of a better word, I'm gonna say you're bought. That means you become compromised, because once they identify who the supposed leader is, allegedly, if there is one, then you become like Casmuel. Back to you.